Thank you, Tom. Our speaker today is a gentleman by the name of Tom Baker. He's a media veteran of 30 years. He's homegrown and Tennessee bred. Oliver, that sounds like you. That's kind of your byline, isn't it? Okay. Graduated from the University of Tennessee with a degree in marketing and advertising. He's been a radio personality and has produced commercials. He migrated to the ad agency world as a copywriter and a commercial producer and found his passion in working television. He became senior video editor at Rowland Productions, then on to Scripps, where he worked on the launch of HGTV, the DIV network, and the purchase of the Food Network and Travel Channel. He left Scripps to open his own TV production company, Cobblestone Entertainment. I told about 2 or 3 people it was Cornerstone, so I finally got it right. It's Cobblestone Entertainment 14 years ago. During that time, he produced hundreds of commercials and has been part of or produced even more television shows. He also produced countless corporate and web videos for regional businesses, including his clients were Scripps Networks, Jewelry Television, ORNL, Provision Proton Therapy, and UT. He's been married for 20 years, has 4 children and 4 dogs. And he has a book that's going to be coming out later this year, and I'll let him tell you about it. So if you could give Tom Baker a good Rotary welcome.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Phil. It's always nice to hear stuff like that about yourself, isn't it? Sometimes you listen to it and you go, that was me? Great delivery of that, and I'm so glad I wrote it. Some of the things you don't hear about, though, when you hear stuff like that, or you have a resume you're going to prepare, are things that aren't so impressive. What's not on that list that he had is I lost 2 jobs. One from being laid off, one from being fired. And if you haven't ever, I suggest being fired at least once in your life. It is a ride that you never forget. But a lot of good things come out of it. And another thing I want you to know about me is I'm a lifelong, I'll consider myself a professional, I'll even consider myself an expert in worrying. How many worriers do we have here today? A few. The rest of you are lying. I'm kidding. I come from a long line of worriers. My father is here tonight, Dave Baker. Some of you know him. One of the world's most wonderful fathers. I am so fortunate to have him. And just an example, and I'm sure neither one of us are proud of this, but toward the end of college, after living on campus for a while here at UT, they had a wonderful home that had a private apartment downstairs. And goodness, live at home for a little while, build up some money. So I did, and I would inform my mother and father of the approximate time that I might come home that night. And I learned a little bit later that my mom told me that whatever approximate time I would give them, if I didn't show up, he'd be pacing the floor at 2 or 3 in the morning. So I understood a little bit about worrying, but what a son does is tries to take what his father does and improve on it. I did. I took it about 15 more steps. What is worry? Right? It's a harmless little word. Some people say, I'm worried. It doesn't sound so bad, right? I worry about them cutting my hair too short. It's little things. But when you have a chronic worrier, when you have a professional worrier, you worry more like, is he going to cut my ears off? Right? Is he going to cut it so short that I lose the next job interview or whatever? Worry is a difficult thing for some people. Some people are pretty good at handling it. Some people take it a lot further than necessary. I'm one of them. Worry plus one is stress. Stress plus one is anxiety. Okay, what is the one? I don't know. It's an illustration. Go with me. Anxiety plus one is fear. Fear plus one is a deep step into depression. And I promise those steps can happen all in one day sometimes. What I want to go with you about is a little bit about the journey I have taken into worry and some things I've learned from it that I would consider helpful to those who might struggle with worry. A little example. 25-ish years ago, Phil said I've been married for 20 years, very happily, but I was married once before. Went through divorce, went through child custody issues. And there was one particular day that stands out to me in this thing. Anybody who's gone through divorce or knows somebody who's gone through divorce, I would say that would include most everybody. It stinks. Ain't nothing good about it. I don't care how amiable a divorce is, it's difficult. And there was one day after depositions or a child custody issue, I don't remember what it was, I had just hung up with my lawyer on my bag phone. Remember that? And I was driving, and without realizing, I was so consumed with what was going on in that particular day in this proceeding and how the dreams that I had of my life totally disappeared. I was not going to see my daughter any more than every other weekend, however that all works out. And I was driving and ran straight through a red light. Didn't even hit the brakes. I was so consumed. And I wasn't on the phone at the time. And through the grace of God, passed through about 3 cars in this intersection, went this way, that way, that way, ended up in the grass median, untouched. And after checking the seat for any debris, I pulled over in a parking lot. And, after then prayers, and then I began to worry that I was worrying too much. It's a vicious cycle, and it's something that can affect your health. I was talking to someone just a little while ago. It's something that can help affect your health in a lot of ways. And just think about this for a minute. I'm going to do some statistics. 92% of primary care health visits, the doctor. And this doesn't include runny nose, this doesn't include broken arms. This is more for probably people over 15 or so. 90 to 92% of those visits are stress-related in some way. I see people nodding their head. The number 2 most prescribed prescription is stress-related. It only is second to antibiotics. All right? It is linked. Worry, stress, anxiety is linked to the top 6 leading causes of death. Cancer, liver problems, lung problems, suicide, accidents, like I almost had. It is, some doctors call the number 1 proxy killer. And it is something that can be very serious. When I went through an issue, I'm going to tell you, I'm going to take you through the journey in a minute, but I lost 30 pounds due to stress over a 2-year period. And there's something to this that we can put ourselves through to try to deal with it. Anybody take a guess? There's all kinds of worries. There's a worry about health. There's a worry about money. Did anybody take a guess on what the number 1 worry in America is? Money. I would think. Health. I mean, so many categories fit into those 2 things. The number 1 worry is appearance. You can be dead broke. You can be laying up in a hospital, but you better have your hair brushed. It's crazy. But it's all in how we appear. And one more statistic for you is between 90 and 93% of the things we worry about never happen. Above 98% of the things that we worry about actually happen. In my life, included in this 8%, we've already talked about divorce, we've already talked about job loss, we've talked about child custody issue. I've also been through 2 accidents that involved car rolling. I've had a call for one of my daughters who was in the outer edge of North Carolina on a mission trip, the first mission trip that the mom or dad we didn't go to, and we got a call that my child was in an air evacuation helicopter going to the hospital because she was electrocuted on top of a roof. A little bit to worry about. I have 2 daughters, actually 4 children, but 2 daughters right now who have one just begun to drive, and the other one just got her learner's permit. The first time, and everybody in this room knows this feeling, the first time they around the corner by themselves, and you go, wait! Definition of worry, maybe? You have 2 choices. You can sit there all day and go, what if a car pulls out in front of me? Or you just say, I pray I taught him right. 3 years ago, maybe, I guess it's 4, it's 2016. As Phil said, I'm in the TV business. Just an amazing business to be in. It is so fun. Every day is a little bit different. You get to create, you get to help people create their dreams. For 14 years now, I own my own TV production company. For those of you who own businesses or around the money part of the businesses, TV is expensive. Especially a few years ago, in the past 14 years. I have a piece of equipment, I was telling Phil this, I have a piece of equipment that is still in operation. It's the size of a small suitcase. It's a tape recording deck. It's a high definition tape deck for professional use. It cost brand new $62,000 for this little box. And that's just representative. As you know, cameras are expensive. And also the people who work in television, if they're any good, they're expensive. About 2005 or so, after I got my feet wet in this business running ordeal, it really went well. Every year for about 5 years, it doubled every year. I think I found something I like. I was blessed. It was wonderful. Until 2011. I staffed up. I got the appropriate equipment to handle this much business. It was a wonderful ride, as a lot of businesses do. And in that time period, it all stopped. I wasn't necessarily prepared for it to stop, but it did. And it was right in the middle of a few projects, and some projects canceled, some projects were indefinitely postponed, some projects went to new competition, some projects just went away, or the promise of them went away. It happened kind of surprisingly, and I was in the midst of a lot of debt, and it was scary. I made the choice, idiotic if it will, probably one of the more bigger dumb choices I've ever made in my life. But I kept my employees. I had 6 at the time, and they were all good. They were friends. They had families that they were depending on me. I didn't want to let them go. If I let my employees go, how would it look to the community? They went down the tubes. They don't have the manpower to do the equipment. I didn't want to let them go. I didn't want them to have to deal with finding another job at that particular time in this economic slump. It became scary. I made that idiotic choice of keeping them instead of paying the IRS. Talk about sweat. Talk about looking the devil in the face. The person I dealt with at the IRS, wonderful person. The power they had is frightening. It was so scary. And knowing in a quick amount of time, I had business savings. gone very fast. I had people that I owed, graphics companies, that you pay lots of money to make logos and whatnot. I had voiceover artists. I had people that I'd worked with for years who trusted me. I owed them money. And I don't sleep well when I owe somebody money. The IRS, if you have ever heard or had experience with, once they put a lien on your business, and the bankers in here know this, ain't nobody gonna help you. You're kind of on your own all of a sudden. A lien on your business is it's kind of a brand problem. So waking up in the morning, going to the mailbox for bills that you can't pay, that's where worry turns into stress, turns into anxiety, turns into, oh my word, what are we going to do? I'm the sole provider at the house, which I'm sure there are a lot of people here who are. In my mind, the first thing that kept popping up, first thing in the morning, failure. It became so difficult to deal with this kind of pressure. It consumed me. It was like a fog. I couldn't see beyond the edge of my hand. It was scary. There was a time with my mom and dad, at the time they could get around a little better than they do now. My wife was dealing with her sick mom. They asked me and our 3 children who were here in town to go to the art museum with them. Wonderful, wonderful plan. I was so consumed with this monstrosity, I missed the day completely. I was disengaged. I was scared. I'm sure looking at the floor the whole time. It's a day that I will never get back. I know that there are plenty of people in here who have dealt with a lot worse issues than this. This is what I will treat as an example for you. Because when you worry that much, when you consume yourself, and people I've talked to said the symptoms that I was showing was in the depression era. I'm not asking you to feel sorry for me. I want you to be glad, because I found a way out of this. The strength, and I'm not going to preach to you today, but the strength that I found in faith not only carried me, it was the way out. But I want to share with you some of the things that took me from that place to the place where I am now. Where I am now is just an amazing place. Fog, think about it for a second. Fog, 7 blocks this way, 7 blocks this way, 100 feet high, in fog that you can't see beyond your hand. Scary place, disorienting, really don't want to move much. Do you know how much moisture is in that amount of fog? If you were to liquefy that, anybody have a guess?
14 gallons.
Good guess.
Anybody else? This much fog, 100 feet high, 7 blocks square, would not fill a glass of water. I read it on the internet. Trust me. The reason I say this is because fog, as scary and as disorienting and as weird as it is, if you go above it or outside of it, it's gone. It's temporary. It's not as bad as it seems. The 8% of things we worry about happen. The 92% don't. The most popular selling book of all time says this: "For I know the plans I have for you, plans to prosper you and not harm you, plans to give you hope and a future. After many times of crying, yelling, scared out of my mind, and whatever else goes along with that picture, my wife, who was a rock in this situation, kept guiding me back to that scenario that I just said. There is a plan. We will all struggle. We will all face difficulty. But how you deal with it is the answer. How you face it. It's not what happens, it's how you deal with it. You hear that all the time. But when I figured out that the struggles that I had gone through in my life, I've listed a few, and I looked back on those and figured out that in each one of them, divorce, job loss, business struggling like crazy, there's blessing in it. There's strength to be gained if you allow it, if you don't cave to it. If you look at it on the surface, it's bad. But in each one of those situations, I have been able to help somebody with that same problem. Somehow, miraculously, I have helped some people who went through divorce. And now, I volunteer for the KnoxWorks program that the Knoxville Leadership Foundation has. People who have lost their jobs and are very hopeless. And I'm able to relate to them. People who have very serious issues. The first person they're going to talk to and listen to and actually react to is somebody who's been there, right? Who has the most powerful testimony. It's somebody who's been there. When you're dealing with worry, it becomes very selfish. There's a disease called pride. Pride is a kind of disease that everyone else sees it but you, right? Worry is just the opposite. Stress and anxiety. You try to hold it in and you try to carry the big face, but inside you're just torn to pieces. And what does it do to your professional life? What does it do to your home life? You shut everybody out. You miss all the blessings that are around you when you're focused on this one problem. And this one problem is just a chapter in your life. It will end. And this particular thing in my life did end. Yes, I laid off all my employees. Yes, I sold a lot of equipment. But I learned something about myself. I can fight it. I didn't quit. I didn't stop praying. I didn't stop having faith. I questioned a lot. But I saw this pattern and I felt it. There's strength within me that I didn't know I had. The business is still on. The doors are still open. I'm working by myself now. All these people I had, I did one thing. I watched what they did and I asked questions. And now I'm doing business with companies around here, Scripps included still. I'm having the time of my life. I'm having a blast. All these things that being boss man, I had to tell everybody what to do or watch over them. Now I get to do it myself, which is the most fun of all. What a blessing is that? I want to, how are we doing? I want to give you a few ideas. I mentioned faith, and I told you I'm not going to preach. But the faith that I had, it kept coming back to this. Everything is ultimately going to be okay. What do we worry about more than anything? We worry about change. We humans hate change. I like it just like it is. And what we usually never see about change is more often than not, what is about to change is going to be better. And I never saw that. Divorce, the wife I've had of 20 years, is the love of my life. And my biggest partner in and good and bad. And what I also learned is what we focus on is usually tomorrow. And what we worry about are things that are gonna, maybe, boy, if that happens, that's gonna stink. Us worriers, those who raised our hands and were honest about it, what we do is we play this scenario over and over and over in our heads and say, oh, this is gonna happen. I know this is gonna be awful. And 92% of the time it doesn't. But if you focus on today, if you focus on what is important today, and I'm going to do my best today, it lightens the load. And it keeps your focus. And you know the things that you have to do today to do it the best you can get it done. Tomorrow we'll deal with that. We'll deal with tomorrow. When you're focused so much on yourself, and I mentioned selfishness of worry, when you focus on other people, you look around, there's so much need in this area. You know, a lot of people deal with what's going on in other countries. There's need right down the road. If you focus somehow on someone else's needs other than your own, the worry goes down to about here. It's still there. We all worry. It's things that's just human nature. We're going to think about things that might happen. When you let them consume you, as I did, then you kill yourself. If you think about what you're worried about, change. We talked a little bit about money. What do we worry about? Losing our stuff, right? Our valuable stuff. When I went through this problem, when I went through these difficult times, 9 out of 10 times, I was worried about the house, the cars. The IRS had papers to all that stuff that said, if you don't pay, those are mine. And I was consumed with losing our stuff. And what I didn't focus on was the fact that I have a family that loved me and were going to stick with me. And I had a family support. No matter what happened, it was going to be okay. It really is. It was useless for me to worry. But my worst nightmares, like I said, became my biggest blessings. So now, when I'm faced with issues, and did I mention that worry starts over every day? We think we have this beat, and today, oh my word, it's a daily struggle. But if you take the attitude of this is a challenge, and I'm going to beat it, one way or another, I've got strength, I'm going to beat it, then it doesn't seem so difficult. If you treat them as challenges and not defeats, then it can happen. You can feel the strength of wanting to deal with it. I'm excited about tomorrow. Never in my life have I been excited about tomorrow. Until now. I can't wait to see what I'm going to need to pray for. It is exciting to me to face struggles, to know that either I can help somebody else through those struggles, I don't even know what I'm going to face yet, or I'm going to be in strength to build the strength I have to deal with something else. Let me leave you with this. I'm going to read this because I wrote it. You can't have a rainbow without dealing with the rain. You won't appreciate joy without knowing pain. You can't get to the mountaintop if you're afraid to start. And you'll never have hope unless you have faith in your heart. Thank you for your time.
Appreciate it.